All right, go ahead and take out your Bibles and turn to the book Leviticus. Go ahead and read the Did You Know, the covenant laws. Take your normal about 4 minutes or so to read and then summarize and make either a connection, comment, clarification, or question. Go ahead and pause this video right now. At this time, either Senor Alvarado or our prayer leader will lead you in prayer. Go ahead and pause the video until after prayer. And move to the next slide. All right, so yesterday we learned that God provided the people with the commandments. Why does God give them the commandments? It's not just so that they have rules and laws to guide them, but also to help mold and shape their identity. So, in a similar way, we could look at different groups and we can infer what are the rules that are guiding them, that are creating their identity. Some might actually have rules. We have rules here at Holy Names that guide our institution and help form your identity as students. What I want you to do is break into a group with the people in your row, or in 420, go ahead and break into groups of 4. And I want you to think of a fictional group. And that could be Mean Girl, Slytherin, Smurfs, a fictional group though, or community, and come up with what are 5 rules or 5 commandments that that group follows that forms their particular identity. There are pages in our collaboration space with group numbers, so pick a page for your group number, make sure other people know which one it is so you're not competing for the same page. Go ahead once you figure that out and pause me for about 6 minutes, so our timekeeper should keep 6 minutes and let people know when time is up. All right, so now that hopefully you've seen connection between how rules can transform or create an identity, whether that's in a fictional relationship or reality, or in our biblical story, where God is really trying to shape the Israelites into people that don't steal and that don't lie and that honor God and respect their parents, etc. We get to hear what happens after those rules are given. Because Moses is up on the mountain for a while getting these rules. This doesn't happen overnight. And while he's away, the people are starting to wonder if he'll ever come back. And they're starting to doubt God. So they ask Aaron, his brother, to help them by building a golden calf. They melt all of their gold down and they mold it into a golden calf that they start to worship. So when Moses comes down the mountain and he sees this, he's obviously very furious, because the first rule of the 10 Commandments is don't have other gods or don't worship other beings, and here are the people worshiping the golden calf. So he throws the tablet down, it breaks, he'll eventually have to go back up and get another one. But we see a reality here, a truth of our nature as humans, that we often turn to other gods, to other beings, to other things to fill God's role when we're feeling distant from God. Just like the Israelites here take their gold and turn it into a golden calf to feel closer to God. Luckily, they kind of learn, though this seems to be a pattern for them, this turning back and forth to and from God as they're figuring out their identity. So, not only does God give them the 10 Commandments, but God actually gives them even more rules. God gives them an entire book of rules called Leviticus. So the book of Leviticus can be broken down into 2 main sections. You have one section that's all about atonement and the sacrifices that are offered. Basically, this section describes the rules for the priests of the community for how to offer sacrifices at the temple, eventually when there is temple, or just at altars to God at this time. The rules and the goal of this is that when you sin or when you turn away from God, you would offer atonement, sacrifices, to make amends for the wrong or the injury you've done. So if I were to be mean to my brother, I might have to offer a pigeon and have a priest offer a pigeon in sacrifice, where if you're going to murder someone, you might be offering a much larger sacrificial animal. But the rules of Leviticus apply to more than just the priests. They also apply to the regular people. And we find this holiness code. Basically, these rules dictate what are we doing in our everyday life. And it also tells us what are the punishments for when we fail to live up to that. So we're going to get a chance to look at both sacrifices and the rules around that, and what are some of the rules around our holiness. When we talk about atonement or sacrifices, one of the big things that we have to know is Yom Kippur, which is a holiday for the Israelites where they are celebrating atonement. And so what I want you to do is turn to your neighbor, and I want you to discuss for just 1 minute, what do you think of when you hear the term scapegoat? Go ahead and pause me. All right, to help facilitate this conversation further, if you open up to Leviticus 16, right around there, there should be a Livit box about scapegoats for you to read and discuss the questions with a partner. Give yourselves 3 minutes or so to do this. Pause me and then start me after about 3 minutes. All right, we're going to watch a video that describes Yom Kippur in about 60 seconds. So go ahead and click on the play in the middle and learn a little bit more about Yom Kippur. So part of Yom Kippur is this idea of the scapegoat. This was a way for the Israelites to atone for their sins. So they would take 2 goats, and one the priest would symbolically place his hands over, and through that he would pour all of the sins of the community into the one goat. This goat was then chased out of town into the wilderness to chase the sins out of the community. The other goat, which was a pure goat because it had not had any sins in it, was then offered back to God because the sacrifices that were offered in atonement had to be pure sacrifices. So part of the holiday was this 2 goat sacrifice. One literally being sacrificed, the other being chased out. This is no longer done today, though there is an e-scapegoat wandering the internet if you're interested that creates kind of a fun virtual way of celebrating Yom Kippur with the scapegoat. All right, so we talked a little bit about the sacrifices of atonement element of Leviticus. So now we're going to move to the holiness code, which applies to everybody and talks about what you do in your daily life. One of those aspects was around eating. And so there's this idea of kosher eating for the Israelites. And there are rules about what can and can't be eaten, as well as how food should be prepared. So we're going to look a little bit at that. One of the rules for the Israelites was that food had to have a cloven foot, meaning that their foot is split in 2. So cows fit this description. You can eat cows. Camels, however, do not. If you look at the picture of the camel up in the top right corner, you'll see that the foot is very much together, where llamas, their foot is cloven. So part of it was they had to have a cloven foot. They also had to chew the cud. If you've ever seen cows doing that thing, that is chewing the cud. So even though pigs have cloven feet, they don't chew the cud. So you cannot eat a pig. Camels do chew cud, but their feet are not cloven, so you can't eat a camel. So cows, yes. Pigs, no. Camels, no. There are also some rules about things such as animals that are very strange, like lobsters, because lobsters have feet and they don't look like fish, but they live in the ocean. So those would be animals that you couldn't eat because they're too strange. We can, however, eat bugs like locusts, probably because that was a source of protein in the desert. Birds of prey, like eagles and hawks, are also off limits because any animal that is a carnivore would be off limits. So only vegetarians are we allowed to eat. Why on earth do we have these rules? It seems a little strange. So the Bible itself doesn't give us a reason why these rules are in place. We just know that they are, and that the people were called to follow them. So some thoughts about why kosher became a part of the Bible from historians are thus. First, that it helped keep them separate from their neighbors. It shows them as distinctive because they're not eating things that their neighbors are. So it's part of an identity formation. It might also be tied to kind of their purity rules. As we dive more into rules in Leviticus, you'll see that they are really concerned with being pure. And so food regulations are a way to maintain purity. It also could be because of things like lobsters, right, that have legs but live in the water, are strange, and we don't know how to understand them, so they just go off limits. That doesn't totally explain things like cows and pigs and why some are allowed and some aren't, but that could be potentially where things like lobsters are coming from. So that's all for today's lecture. Thanks for being on your best behavior for the sub. At least that's what I hope to hear from our substitutes. Remember, we don't have class tomorrow because of the testing going on. So a reminder that we have our reading quiz on Friday. Please do not forget to do the reading for Friday. Have a great day. Bye.